So for our prevention program, we talk about a middle school program that was developed actually in a different country in Uruguay, but it is used and can be beneficial for the United States as well because we're seeing the use of substances all over the world. So before we get into talking about that, I'm going to go over just a few basic things about the substance abuse in the middle school age kids. So, to start off with statistics, at the age of 13, students believe that it's easy to find narcotics. So, these are students that are from a variety of backgrounds in a variety of areas that they are seeing narcotics and different kind of substances just in their everyday life. That was from an article that I read about how it's so prominent now for young students to see these things. With it being so easy for narcotics to be found, it is just over 10% who smoke marijuana, cigarettes, and drinking alcohol. So the drinking alcohol is just under 10%, and that is all of those things just in the eighth grade, just between the ages of 10 and 13, so in the middle school age. Although these numbers seem high at first, in the past few years there have been improvements with the numbers decreasing, which leads us to believe that we are moving in the right direction with prevention programs. So we're seeing that such a large amount of young kids are involved with substances. They have implemented a lot of prevention programs into the younger grades to help decrease who is using when they're in the older grades. But even though we're doing prevention programs, there is still an increase in some of the uses. By the time the students that are using in eighth grade get to 12th grade, the number of kids addicted to marijuana increases by 24%, which is the largest amount that is increased. It's the most common drug to be used. And the other substances increase as well. They're just not as high, so they go up by 1 or 2%. So the setting and the audience that we focus on for this prevention program is the middle school age. So these students will range between 10 and 13 years old. All sessions that are developed are delivered in a school setting per class so that we have more individual time with the students. We can go one class at a time, and once we have gone through all the classes, we'll circle back around and the classes will get a second program. It's basically the same thing. It'll just be another time around just so they have more awareness. And when it's done in a school setting, it gives the school counselors a chance to see them in a different way and more in a personal way that they can actually ask questions and not feel like the whole school is there judging them. This prevention program is developed around the middle school age students, like I said, and these students are from multicultural backgrounds, both male and female, and all students have been exposed and not exposed to substances. So there are some middle school kids that are exposed more often than other kids, and so this might be the first time we're presenting these students with this information, or it could be something that they have seen and gone through basically their whole life. So the training that is done for this particular prevention program is the teachers go through an intense training with research professionals that actually developed this program for them. And the training takes 2 whole days, and they separate each topic into different groups. So you get a presentation and training on each of those groups that you'll be covering for your students. The training is offered to a variety of staff, such as teachers, counselors, administration, and psychologists. It's offered to all the teachers, but it is hopeful that there will be a few teachers there, and counselors, administration, and psychologists so that they can collaborate with each other. Both male and female staff will be there as well in hopes that they give a different perspective for each. It's offered to the whole district, not just to the middle school staff as well.
All right, so what is Keeping It Real? So Keeping It Real is a prevention program that is originally designed for middle schoolers. Um, Research done by Marsiglia, Kulis, Kiene, Ayers, Ricalda, and Silka show that it effectively delays onset of substance abuse. It's also labeled a model program by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Some of the things that it does is it encourages positive decision making and builds communication and social skills. So, other than just telling people that drugs and alcohol are bad, it actually helps students build the skills that they need to communicate that they don't want to use the drugs, or how they're feeling and how to get out of a situation, besides just telling them they shouldn't do it. So it really helps build beyond just saying no. It helps them actually build real life skills that can be used in many situations. There's also multiple options given on how to handle situations, which is what REAL stands for. Um, so the acronym REAL stands for, so REAL stands for, the R is refuse, and that's just saying no, I don't want something. The E is you're explaining it, so why don't you want that? A is avoid, so staying away from the situation that you don't want to be involved in. And the L stands for leave, so you take yourself and you remove yourself from that situation completely. So using that model, it kind of gives you multiple options. So, I mean, you can just say no and walk away, but it also tells you that if, depending on the situation is, you can explain why, you can just say no, you can completely avoid it, or you can just leave from the situation and remove yourself if you think that that's the best decision to make. um, and then in this program, a lot of videos are used as examples, and in those videos, it's really important for this program that they teach kids through kids. So it's kind of like they're using kids that have had these experiences with drugs or with being pressured into drugs, and they're looking at their experiences and kind of using them. So real life examples are used. There's also role playing in class. So you can kind of go through the program, and that will, or after you do the presentation, you can sit there and talk, kind of set up a role playing scenario where you and another student are, one of them asks you to do drugs, and you can go through the different examples and which one could be best to be used in different situations, depending on who is asking you and what the social setting is to that's happening. And then it was actually used as a temporary replacement for DARE in certain schools to see how efficient it was compared to DARE. So then here are some of the goals of the Keeping It Real program. These were found on through the California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse for Child Welfare, and they talked about that in this program, Keeping It Real, the main goals are to decrease substance abuse, to delay the starting of substance abuse, to decrease the overall desire of wanting to use, teaching students realistically what substance use looks like. So not only is it just saying drugs are bad, you should say no to drugs, it's actually teaching students kind of the different levels of what substance use can be and how it can turn into substance abuse, and just that there's different layers to it. It also helps, like I said, with real life skills. They help improve communication skills, improve decision-making skills, and improve resistance ability. So students can feel confident in saying no and confident in explaining why they don't want to do drugs or want to remove themselves from a certain situation. And then it also teaches the importance and awareness of social support. And this was especially important because in certain scenarios, people think that they don't have anyone to turn to, maybe. So teaching students that they have more, and they may not have the best social support at home. So teaching students that they have places that they can turn to at school and in that setting, so they don't feel like they're alone and they still feel like they have that level of support. And that's one of the main goals of this program. So then kind of just an overview of what all of the sessions entail in this. So there's 10 45-minute sessions. And in these 10 45-minute sessions, like I said, it was designed for middle schoolers, and it's designed to reduce the risks and achieve the goals that I mentioned in the previous slide within the uses of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs as well. And then to kind of promote social and emotional competencies in students, like the communication skills and those types of things. The weekly lessons are about 45 minutes, and then it discusses real situations and stories. So each session, I think I read that through the California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse for Child Welfare, that the sessions are all structured differently, but they have 4 sessions which have videos involved in them, and all of the other sessions are kind of educational and PowerPoint sessions. And then within these, it depends. Every session at the end will have a role-playing activity, but within the session, some can use videos and others can just use some can use videos and others can just use PowerPoints to explain kind of the risks and factors of drug and alcohol use. So then some of the materials that would be needed for this program, you would just need a computer. If you're in a classroom setting, a projection screen, and then PowerPoint software to be able to go through this and show it to the class. And then we're kind of just going to look at what a session could maybe look like, a breakdown of a session if we're looking at the topic of alcohol use. So to start off, maybe statistics about alcohol can be discussed, and then the dangers of alcohol. And then you would kind of take what you learned about alcohol and apply it to situations where individuals might be drinking. So if there's like a party and someone at the party is drinking and they're telling you to drink, kind of showing you the setting that it may happen to you in, and then you kind of can then take the real model if you're being pressured and kind of try to apply it. So then real life examples will be viewed about the alcohol use. So maybe kids that have gone through it and felt pressured to use alcohol or drink alcohol before will kind of be looked at, and how they overcame the situation, or how they did not overcome the situation, how it turned out, and maybe what they could have done instead to help the situation, and maybe there would have been a better turnout. Then the risks of alcohol drinking at a young age and future effects if there is an addiction can be discussed, and then the students will at the end practice their resistance skills in groups.
Engaging students, emotional engagement. High school students prefer programming that invokes more feeling. This in turn allows them to be more emotionally receptive to changing, or in this case, abstaining from destructive behaviors. The students themselves should be utilized in a fashion where a good portion of information on trends and usage rate should primarily be coming from them. Programming curriculum is less effective when developed from the perspective outside of central populace that they aim to help. The instructors will serve as a catalyst of informative dialogue. In this class, dialogue, and the instructor should provide information on the reasons prevention is necessary and beneficial, while students provide causes in real-time information and feeling. Perception, adolescent worldview. Program instructors should be purposeful in their efforts to establish a space that allows the students to be the most knowledgeable of their own behavior. Prevention programs derived from a top-down teaching method begins to cloud the perceived reasoning or effectiveness of the program. Information has been provided to show the lack of efficacy that fear-based approaches with this age group have. Students will like relevant, informative data that is palatable through dialogue and to not be scared. A style compatible with lecturing can conclude a poor judgment when made through a misinformed viewpoint about the harms of alcohol. McBride suggests that students perceive programs as more informative and effective when they are interactive. Sessions are to be filled with an exchange of experiences and ideas with the opportunity to learn and practice new skills. in order to build a positive atmosphere.
So, onto the rationale of this program and really any prevention program. This prevention program, like others, is created to help make students aware of what is going on around them so they can be educated and informed. So, it's really just to open their eyes to see what is out there and what is happening. When using drugs, it limits and can sometimes destroy the way the brain functions. So in the school setting is a natural area to demonstrate how it can affect a student after using, and it's also just a great environment for them to ask questions and be attentive to what is being presented to them. Although these programs are developed to the school district and what is happening in their area, it's important to know that the substances that are being discussed are popular for that area. So they are what the kids see when they're out and what is generally around them. So it's based on their personal environment and gives them more of a personal experience. Counselors are trying to inform students about the drugs that are out there and the different substances that are out there so they are less tempted to experience them on their own, and teach them how to refuse drugs. So being able to teach them how to refuse drugs gives them the confidence at any moment if they are offered drugs or any other kind of substance that they can turn away and not feel that they are then in danger or they are risking their lives for it. Contemporary prevention programs focus on teaching drug refusal skills, correcting normative expectations regarding the prevalence of substance use, and enhancing general social and personal competence skills. So just with that, it was from an article that I read about just the effectiveness of substance abuse prevention programs and how it can help the students. And it's just giving them more of a background on what is going on around them. And it's also helping them realize how to still be in social settings where there are drugs and know that they don't have to always use them.
Effectiveness, causes of efficacy. Throughout the literature on prevention programming, one of the most prevalent causes of an effective program is information that is local and pertinent to that specific group. General national data does not tend to gain any traction with this group. Social influence approach, basic information, resistance skills, training, and normative information. This is the key element for this age group, providing prevention methods in multiple ways aimed at dealing with the day-to-day components of prevention, especially amongst peers. Behavior focused. It has been found that when prevention programs target efforts to focus on behavioral corrections rather than primarily relying on imparting knowledge through information. Multicultural aspects of the program. Purposeful cultural understanding. Instructors should have a cultural competence concerning the area and demographic that the school is in. As in all counseling matters, having the appropriate cultural insight can allow us to discern information from a better perspective. Again, relevant information to this particular group that you are focusing on is important. Inner city statistics cannot be presented in an area that does not have the same day-to-day triggers or influences that lead to usage. Being knowledgeable not only of cultural dealings with ethnicity, but the cultural around the particular substance or substances in that community. Theories influence. Utilizing therapeutic techniques. Various methods and techniques that incorporate solution-focused theory and cognitive behavioral theory in counseling may be applied throughout the program. In this program, students should be collectively developing strategies that deal with helping them abstain in future settings or events. This is a solution-focused technique that is transferable to the effectiveness of our program. Additionally, given the short amount of time with students, solution-focused theory allows us to focus attentively on specific goals or outcomes. As mentioned before, programs that dive into behavioral change have been seen to have the most effect on students. CBT is also a short session goal-oriented therapeutic style. CBT and treating alcohol addiction have been synonymous for some time now. CBT techniques can allow us to provide the space for informative rhetoric, dealing with planning time to engage in non-drug consuming behavior, and leaving a situation in which there is drug abuse or consumption, all of which this age group needs the most. Limiting aspects of the program, social influence. This plays a vital role in the lives of adolescents. Influences from trying to gain the approval of peers or modeling the behavior of close relatives may prove to be stronger than sentiments heard through prevention programming. Personal choice. Free will and personal choice is the constant, inevitable variable within all human behavior. Natural maturation. As students begin to grow and develop cognitive patterns of their own, abstinent ideas gained through prevention programming may become weaker due to changes in life philosophies.